Well, hey there, everybody. This is Jaren with REtipster.com. And today I have the privilege of interviewing one of my favorite people on the planet. She's also one of the most beautiful, if not the most beautiful woman out there. I feel really bad for all the other ladies. I'm interviewing my beloved wife of 8 years and going. I see you.
Awesome.
Excited
Yay.
to have you. So the reason why I had my wife come on the air with me is we have discovered something pretty epic in our land business. We've discovered the power of leveraging strategic relationships with agents that specialize in land. And a lot of people throw agents under the bus when it comes to real estate investing. And, in a lot of ways, it's for good reason. Most agents that you deal with are residential agents, and they don't know anything about real estate investing. They definitely don't know anything about land, but there happen to be land specialized agents out there. They are harder to find, but if you can find them, we've had some pretty phenomenal success in our land business using them. So I wanted to bring my wife on the air to kind of go over what her process is, because she kind of runs the show in our land business. I'm over here at REtipster, and she's kind of in the day-to-day. So it's really on her to find really good agents to partner with every time we branch out into a new county. So to kick this thing off, Asia, give us an introduction to who you are, maybe like a 30-second introduction to our family and our land business and all of that.
Sure. My name is Asia. I am Jaren's wife. And together with my husband, we happen to run a small land business on the side for him, but full-time for me, really. We have a website called ibuyland.org. But as of lately, we haven't really been updating it with properties because we discovered working with agents is a lot easier, and it saves us the hassle of having to put those properties on the website and do a lot of work that could be pretty much outsourced,
Yeah. I know we've kind of cracked the code on how to find really solid land specialized agents in our business, but that didn't come without its own set of bumps and bruises along the way. So I wanted to ask you, what are the key things to look for in a good agent as a land investor?
Okay, so I'm going off the cuff here, but one of the main things I look for is how responsive the agent is. So when I send out texts and emails, does he respond quick enough? Because that lets me know how hungry he is. Because if he is hungry, he is going to work. He's going to be motivated to sell. Secondly, I think I look for knowledgeability. It's really important for me that the agent is local in the area and he knows what's up. He knows what's going on in the area. So like when the buyers call in, he can actually sell the property to them because he is knowledgeable about the area. Another thing I look for is the experience. So like some of my agents, I just call them up. Like I'll have an signed offer will come in the mail, and then I shoot out the address to the agent and say, what do you think about this address? Tell me about the area. And then they're like, based on the experience, they can just tell me so much that I would never know had I not spoke with this agent. So he'll tell me things like, yeah, it's right by the creek, and during the hurricane, it was unbearable there. Things are moving really slow there. I have 2 lots that have been sitting there for 2 years. I wouldn't touch it. And I also, this might come across as kind of discriminatory, but I tend to look for agents that are older in age. I don't know, something about like older agents, they seem to really have love for land and respect for land, and they seem to believe in its value, like they appreciate it. What is the young bucks? They're more like in it to make money and, quickly get out or whatever. So, yeah.
Yeah, and something that I would add to that, one of the major benefits of using agents is even if a property checks all of our due diligence boxes, a lot of the times our agents have saved us from buying properties that were troublesome properties that we would have been stuck with if we bought them, they were able to help us avoid them completely because from our perspective, online, doing all the research, everything checked out, but they would do things like actually drive by the property. From an aerial map perspective, the roads were fine. It was a dirt road. It was fine. But when they went by it, the road was absolutely flooded and you couldn't travel on it. So to get this to our property was in practice landlocked. There's a number of different cases like that where there's been a lot of value that they've added from a selling perspective. We've made a lot of money having our agents sell property for us, but we've also saved a lot of money from having our agents tell us not to buy property that we would have been stuck with and wasted money on.
For sure. Not only do they work for us in dispositions, but also in acquisitions, and a lot of the times what they get paid for, I usually pay my agents like 6% of the sale price. And it's just nothing, for the value they bring in. Not only do they sell it for me, but they also make sure I never buy a bad deal.
And they provide you an actual real list price and potential sold price that we can reverse engineer and figure okay, we offered this much on the property. They've accepted it. Are we actually going to make money on this property or not? A lot of the pain point of being a land investor is having solid comps, right?
Yeah.
We don't run into that issue anymore because all we have to do is call up an agent to confirm what we're looking at. So let's go back to your experience of working with some agents that were not very good.
Yeah.
What were some of the warning signs, looking hindsight, that pointed to them not being a good agent for land investors?
One of the agents that I really regretted hiring was the guy who would always have an excuse. He wouldn't list my property when he told me they would be listed. And then when he sent me the link to the listing, it was missing pictures of the lot. He was just taking aerial pictures. That's a sign of a lazy agent, Another thing I wanted to say, when I first hired him, he was talking himself up a lot, saying, hey, I'm the best thing on the market. I'm shooting out all these lots to billion people. They'll be sold in no time. A lot of stuff. And he was saying, I'm not like the other agents. I will, talking himself up, which wasn't really pleasant for me. And also sometimes intuitively you will feel the vibe from the person. And I did not like him, but for some reason I went with him, maybe because I needed to come on the show and tell you what not to do. Maybe that's why I ended up hiring him, but I don't know why I hired him. Good thing he didn't put up any fuss about me terminating the contract with him. So yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And another thing that was interesting is going back to your age thing, he was the youngest agent that we actually ever hired and was one of the most troublesome agents to work with. Again, I don't want to personally discriminate against age, but I do think that a key factor is experience. If you're working with somebody who's truly experienced and you can bet that, I think that is a strong indicator of a good agent. So I want to dive into a little bit about how all of this works. For our audience, for somebody who might not know the logistics of how working with agents is set up, do we use one agent per state? Do we use one agent per county? How does this whole dynamic work?
Okay, so initially I end up hiring an agent per county. If I really enjoy working with them, I just ask them, hey, which other counties do you service? And they tell me whatever counties, and then I'll just use them for those counties as well. So I have an agent that I only use for one county, and I have another agent who I use for 2 counties, and some other agents that I use for 3 counties. It just really depends.
And I think another warning sign is if an agent tells you that they'll do the entire state, that's a red flag for me, because real estate is so localized, especially when it comes to land, that if they say that they're experts in the entire state, you can be pretty confident that they're lying to you. You really need to find somebody who lives in the market, knows how things go down, is the kind of guy that you can call up and say, hey, what's the average price per acre in this zip code? And they're like, oh yeah, this. And they know it right off the cuff. So what does it look like to work with these guys? I know you mentioned, we're typically paying 6 to 10% commission. What's the process look like though once you have a deal. Let's even take it a step further back and say you have a lead, like you got an accepted offer. We use blind offers exclusively in our business. So let's just say we got an accepted offer. What do you do?
What I do is once I have the accepted offer, I look up the property on Zillow. I look at the comps. I make sure it's not in a flood zone. And I look at the zoning and make sure it's not in wetlands. And then if everything checks out, if it seems okay, and we can proceed. I don't like to bother the agents for everything, like for little things that I can figure out myself. So if those things check out, then what I do is I actually text my agents the address and I say, hey, what do you think of this? By now they know my language, so they understand what I mean by it. So they look at it and then they say, generally it's a nice area, but tomorrow I'll be running my errands and I will be in the area. I'll check it out for you. So what they do is when they go there, they take pictures. So they have the pictures to list if I end up buying it. And then they'll basically tell me the scoop, like what the lot is like. Sometimes the wetlands mapper will say it doesn't have any wetlands, but when the agent actually goes to the location, he sees cypress trees, which indicates, some wetlands or whatever. That's like an insurance for you, like he'll let you know, and then you can go back to the seller and say, hey, there's actually some cypress trees, so I can't really pay you the original amount I agreed to. You can use that to negotiate with the seller. And then they'll give me the comps. I usually tell them, give me the price to sell in a month and give me the price to sell like in 6 months. And then based off of that, I decide whether I'm going to move forward with my offer or not.
And then once you decide to move forward, what does the process look like from there?
I usually send them the executed recorded deed. And then from there, they take off and they do everything themselves. Like they'll go ahead and take the pictures and
put up a sign.
They put up a sign. They go 1 mile further and they put up a sign for their lender in case, people don't have money and they're looking for lenders and stuff like that. So,
in our business, we still do the Facebook Marketplace a little bit. We still do Craigslist. We still have a website with existing buyers and we shoot out to our buyers list. But now, anytime we get a lead on the buying side, instead of us having to deal with that iconic, is it still available from Facebook Marketplace, we just get a lead and we shoot it over to the agent and the agent takes care of everything. Yeah. And both me and my wife know the bottleneck of the land business has always been selling property. It's easy to get deals all day long, but selling property is what you spend the bulk of your activity on. Yeah. Not anymore. For us, it's all outsourced. So the minute we have an executed deed, proof that we own the property, we shoot it to them, and then we just wait. We wait about 3 to 6 months is typically our turnaround time, and it's all cash. It's awesome.
Yeah, and one of the hardest things for us as a business was establishing like a reputation and integrity. The buyers would come, but then they would find out that we are based in Indiana and not in Florida, and they would be scared off by it. And Jaren would have to go into this long spiel of him having, like, he would be like, I work for REtipster, it's like, all that stuff. And then that sometimes would convince them that it's actually a legitimate situation, or sometimes it wouldn't, so... But now all I got to do is, hey, I have a local agent, go speak with them. And then that headache is taken care of,
So to end this interview, I want us to go through the entire process of finding a good agent. So we're in a brand new county, hypothetically, and you need an agent. We're Mail's just about to drop this county, and we really need to establish a relationship with one. What do you do?
What I do is usually I wait until I get the accepted offer for certain county or whatever. And once I have the accepted offer, I type in the address into Zillow. And then I look at listings of similar lots around the same area. And then I look at the agents who have listed those properties. And then I click on their profile and I read about them. And I look at their listings. Do they use actual pictures of the lot, or all of the pictures are aerial, And then I look at their writing, like how they've described the lot. Have they put in some effort into it, or is it just blah, 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 like 2 acres of residential lot? And then I read about them, how long they've been in the market. Usually all you got to do is type in the name and the realty, and usually Google will bring up a good description about the agent. So that's what I do. And then I call them if I like them enough, and I explain to them what I do. I say, hey, I'm a land investor with my husband. We're a small company, and we're looking for an agent to partner with. And then I tell them what I'm looking for exactly, and I ask them what their commissions are. But usually, like, all of my agents that I've spoken with, they always tell me, usually it's 10%, but because you are an investor and you'll have continual amount of properties, I will do 6%. That's what they say usually. And that's like really great by me. That's amazing for the amount of work they do. Yeah.
They do so much stuff on the front end that doesn't.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah. Well, I've really appreciated you coming on the air with me. This has been a lot of fun. I want to wrap this thing up, but are there any final tips or words of advice that you would leave for whoever's watching the video today?
Sure. I think based on the mistakes I've made, I would say if you're not sure about the agent you're hiring, you know, if there's like red flags here and there, but you're not too sure, you could sign the listing agreement only for 3 months. So that way, you know, if they prove themselves to be amazing in those 3 months, then like you can always extend it. It's not a big deal. But if your intuition is right and they're not the greatest agent, then you can part ways in 3 months. And then, you know, you could look for another agent. So,
and if you can get them to swing doing a month-to-month, that would be awesome. But most agents won't do that for a listing.
Yeah. I think 3 months is the least they would do.
Yeah, definitely. Well, I see ya, because on the air, it'd be really awkward if I called you babe or baby.
Yeah.
I appreciate your time.
Thank you for having me. It was a pleasure.